Now that your husband is dead, grieve, pack your bags, and never come back." The words didn't just hit me, they cracked through my bones. I stood there, frozen, my hand still resting on the polished oak coffin that held my Daniel. My heart was already heavy from the weight of the funeral, but her words, they felt like a second burial. I turned to Emily, my daughter-in-law, and for a moment I didn't even recognize her. Her face was calm, smooth, completely unreadable. Not a trace of sadness, not a tear in her eyes. Just ice. Cold, sharp, cruel ice. The cemetery was quiet now. The crowd had thinned. Most of the family had already left, murmuring soft condolences, hugging me, touching my arm like they were afraid I'd break apart. I almost did, but not until she said it. I blinked. "What did you say?" Emily didn't flinch. "You heard me, Maggie. You've done your part. You said goodbye. Now go back to wherever you came from." Wherever I came from. I raised Daniel in that very house. I had been there for every birthday, every fever, every scraped knee. And when Emily came into his life, I welcomed her. I tried, I really did. But from the start, something about her was closed off, guarded. Like she saw me as the enemy. I wanted to scream, to shout, but nothing came out. I stared at her, searching her face for grief, for pain, for something. But there was only stone. Behind her, little Ethan clung to her skirt, sucking his thumb, looking confused. Poor thing had no idea what had just happened. His world had crumbled, and now mine was being swept away with it. "I'm not leaving," I said quietly. Daniel would never have wanted that. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Daniel's gone. And this is my home now. Ethan's home. You don't belong here anymore." A chill passed through me. I felt the wind stir my hair, the kind of wind that always comes after a storm, but this storm wasn't over. It had just begun. I walked away without another word, my legs trembling beneath me. Each step felt like walking through a fog, heavy and slow. I could still hear the priest's words echoing in my head. Beloved husband, father, son. How could the world go on like nothing happened? Back at the house, everything felt different. The pictures of Daniel and me were still on the walls, but they suddenly looked like strangers. His scent still lingered in the air, but it was fading. And I wondered, had it been fading long before this? I sat on the edge of the guest bed, my bed, now, and tried to breathe. Emily's words kept replaying in my head, over and over. She didn't just want me gone. She hated me. But why? We hadn't always seen eye to eye, but I never imagined she'd speak to me like that. Not now. Not like this. I opened Daniel's closet, hoping to feel close to him, maybe find something that smelled like him. But even that brought no comfort. Instead, tucked behind his coat, I found a pair of shoes, muddy, scuffed, and wrong. Daniel always polished his shoes. Always. Something didn't sit right. Something about that day, about the way he died, falling down the stairs in a house he knew better than anyone, kept poking at the back of my mind. And Emily, why was she so calm? Why would someone who just lost their husband act like she was finally free? Was I just imagining things? Or was something terribly wrong? I didn't know it then, but that question would haunt me. And I wasn't prepared for what I'd soon discover, because Daniel's death wasn't just a tragedy. It might have been something else entirely. Something much darker. I sat there for hours that night, holding Daniel's shoes like they could somehow answer me. The same shoes that shouldn't have been muddy, not when he'd been home all day before his fall. Something about them itched at me, like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. But it wasn't just the shoes. It was everything that had led to this moment, the tension, the distance, the things unsaid between us all. As I stared out the window at the empty driveway where Daniel used to park his car, memories began to flood in, some warm, some jagged, and all tangled with regret. Daniel was the glue between me and Emily, and even that glue had always been cracked. I remember the day he brought her home to meet me. He was so excited, like a boy showing off a prize. Emily smiled politely, her lips tight, her eyes scanning everything, judging, measuring. I offered her tea, tried to ask about her life, her family, her dreams. She answered in short, clipped sentences. She didn't seem shy, just guarded, distant. From the start, I could tell she didn't like me. At first, I thought it was nerves. Then months passed, then years. Holidays felt strained. Birthday dinners turned into battles of politeness. I tried to help with the baby, but she always had a reason to refuse. I'd make suggestions, gentle ones, but she'd stiffen, like I was criticizing her. Daniel always stepped in. "Come on, Mom. Emily's doing her best." Or he'd say, "Emily, she's just trying to help." He was always the bridge. And I kept walking across it, even when the boards began to splinter. I loved my son fiercely. But looking back now, I wonder, did I love him blindly? The memories blurred into the present when the lawyer came by the next day to read the will. I sat in the living room, the same place where we'd once celebrated Ethan's first birthday. There were still faded marks on the wall from where the balloons had been taped. Emily sat across from me, legs crossed, face unreadable. Ethan played on the floor, building towers and knocking them down again and again. Maybe he understood more than we thought. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Daniel has left joint ownership of the house to Margaret Whitmore and Emily Whitmore. Custody of Ethan remains solely with Emily." Joint ownership. That stopped my heart. Emily's eyes didn't even flicker. No surprise. No relief. Just that same cold calm. But something shifted after that. She started making things difficult. One by one, the little comforts disappeared. The teacups I used every morning? Moved. My calendar with my doctor's appointments? Gone. I mentioned it once. "Emily, have you seen my calendar?" And she smiled. "Maybe you forgot where you left it." Subtle things, but constant, like a silent war. That night, as I lay in bed, I wondered, was this her plan all along? Wait until Daniel was gone, then push me out piece by piece? But why? Why such bitterness? What had I done that was so unforgivable? Then I remembered something Ethan had said just yesterday. We were in the kitchen. I dropped a cup, and he jumped at the sound. "Don't yell," he whispered. "Mommy doesn't like yelling." I bent down, brushing glass from the floor. "Who yelled, sweetheart?" He looked down. "Daddy did. Mommy told him to stop. She said she'd make it end." I froze. The cup wasn't the only thing that had shattered. Did he mean the night Daniel died? The more I thought about it, the more the cracks grew. And the worst part? I didn't know whether I was imagining it, or if the truth had been hidden from me all along. But one thing I did know. Emily wanted me gone. And I had just begun to wonder, what exactly was she trying to hide? Ethan's words wouldn't leave me alone. Mommy told him to stop. She said she'd make it end. The sentence played over and over in my head like a haunting melody. I told myself not to overthink it. He was just a child, barely 5, but something deep inside me kept whispering, "No. Listen." I started paying closer attention after that. Watching, quietly, from the background like a ghost in my own home. One morning, I noticed Daniel's watch was missing from the nightstand. He never went anywhere without that watch. I asked Emily about it. "Oh," she said casually, "he probably misplaced it." Misplaced it? Daniel placed that watch in the same spot every night for 15 years. I should know. I gave it to him. The feeling in my chest started to twist and knot. Still, I kept calm. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted answers. Later that week, while organizing Daniel's papers in the study, papers Emily hadn't touched since the funeral, I found something odd. A voicemail icon flashing on his old landline handset. One unheard message. My fingers shook as I pressed play. His voice crackled through the speaker. "Mom, it's me. I know it's late. I'm sorry. I need to talk to you. Something's wrong. Emily's not who you think she is. The message cut off. That was it. No explanation. Just a frightened voice and a hanging silence. I replayed it again and again, trying to catch some missed word, some clue hidden in the static. But it always ended the same way, empty, unfinished, and full of fear. I sat there stunned. What had he wanted to tell me? What had he discovered, and why didn't he get to finish? The next day, I paid a visit to Liam. Liam Preston had been Daniel's childhood friend, and now a detective with the local police. I hadn't spoken to him much in years, but I knew if there was anyone I could trust, it was Liam. He greeted me gently, but his eyes were sharp, always reading, always watching. I played the voicemail for him. He listened silently. When it ended, he leaned back slowly in his chair. "That's not nothing," he said carefully. I asked him the question that had been burning inside me. "Liam, do you really believe Daniel just fell?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled open a drawer, slid out a folder, and placed it in front of me. "The autopsy came back with something odd," he said. "There was bruising on Daniel's arms and wrists. Defensive wounds. But nothing conclusive. No one pushed for further investigation. Everyone assumed it was a tragic accident. But you didn't?" I asked. I couldn't prove otherwise. But now he nodded toward the voicemail. "This changes things." I should have felt relief. But I didn't. I felt dread. Cold, creeping dread that crawled up my spine and whispered, "You were never supposed to find this." Back at the house, I started noticing more things. Ethan had drawings, dark ones. Scribbles of staircases, stick figures falling, others watching. I asked him gently what they were. "Daddy fell," he said softly. He was yelling. "Mommy told me to go to my room." "What was he yelling about?" I asked. He frowned, thinking. He said Mommy was lying. That he knew. Then there was a crash. I hugged him tight, even though my insides were trembling. The walls of the house suddenly felt like they were closing in. The air was thick with secrets. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered into Daniel's office again, searching. For what I didn't know. Just anything. That's when I saw it, his laptop hidden in the bottom drawer. The screen was cracked, the hinge bent like it had been slammed shut with force. I turned it on. Somehow it still worked. And on the desktop, I found a voice memo folder. Most files were harmless. Notes for work. Grocery lists. But one file, labeled simply for Mom, stood out. It wouldn't open. Password protected. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Why would Daniel lock a message meant for me? And more importantly, what did he want to tell me before he died? I stared at the locked file labeled for Mom on Daniel's broken laptop like it was a ticking bomb. I didn't know what was inside, but I could feel the weight of it. Something he hadn't wanted anyone, especially Emily, to see. I tried everything I could think of. His birthday. Ethan's birthday. Even the name of our childhood dog. Nothing worked. That voice memo remained sealed, silent, and screaming for attention. I closed the laptop and hid it back in the drawer just before I heard footsteps outside the door. Emily. She stood there with a glass of wine in hand, wearing Daniel's old sweatshirt like it belonged to her. She glanced at the laptop, but said nothing. Instead, she smiled, that same cold, distant smile she wore at the funeral. "Couldn't sleep?" she asked. "No," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Just missing him." She took a sip of wine. "We all do. Some of us just have different ways of coping." There was a tension in her tone, like she was almost saying something else. Something meant to sting. I nodded and excused myself, but I could feel her eyes on my back all the way to my room. Over the next few days, the house turned colder, not just the air, but the energy. I'd find little things missing. My toothbrush swapped, my slippers replaced with smaller ones that didn't fit. Harmless, maybe, but deliberate. Psychological. Emily also started rearranging the furniture. Daniel's office desk moved, his favorite chair donated without asking. She claimed she was clearing space. I knew what she was really doing, erasing him. And by extension, erasing me. Then one afternoon I heard it. Emily shouting. I rushed toward the noise, Ethan's room. I found her standing over him, her voice sharp, furious. "I told you to stop touching that," she snapped, yanking a small notebook from his hands. Ethan burst into tears. I stepped in quickly. "Emily, that's enough." She turned on me like a storm. "Don't tell me how to raise my child." "He's our family," I said quietly, "and he's grieving." She glared at me for a long moment, then softened. just slightly. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "It's just been hard." But the crack had formed, and I saw it now. The perfect mask she wore, the kind, grieving widow, was starting to slip. Later that night, Rose came by. My oldest friend. She brought a casserole, hugs, and truth. "You look tired, Maggie." "I am tired. I feel like I'm being pushed out of my own son's life. Out of Ethan's." She didn't flinch. "Then don't let her. She's stronger than she looks," I said, almost whispering. "So are you," Rose replied. "Especially when you're fighting for someone you love." Those words stuck with me as I opened up to Liam the next morning. I told him about the locked laptop file, about the little games Emily was playing, the tension in the house. He leaned forward. "I can have someone try to unlock it discreetly. But if we go further with this, you need to understand, it could mean custody battles. Headlines. Ethan's stuck in the middle of a mess." My heart squeezed. The last thing I wanted was to hurt Ethan. But I had to know the truth. For Daniel. For all of us. Later that day, I confronted Emily, softly, carefully. We were in the kitchen. She was slicing apples for Ethan, calm and precise. "You've been under a lot of stress," I said. "But I think there are things we haven't said. Things we both felt." She kept cutting, didn't look at me. "You mean how you never liked me?" "I tried, Emily. I really did. But you shut me out. Always." Finally, she looked up, and her eyes were sharp now, the mask gone. "You want the truth, Maggie?" she said, her voice low but shaking. "I hated the way he ran to you. Every fight we had, every disagreement, he'd hide behind his perfect mother. You don't know what it was like living in your shadow." I was stunned. "Is that why you're doing this?" Her voice cracked. "You think he was perfect. But he wasn't. He had secrets. And you defended him every time." The room went quiet. I saw something then, pain, yes, but rage too. Worn and buried. I wondered for the first time, what had Daniel really been hiding? And how much of Emily's anger was grief? And how much was guilt? Emily's words hung in the air like smoke. "You think he was perfect. But he wasn't. He had secrets. And you defended him every time." I couldn't breathe. I stared at her, trying to find the line between her pain and her fury, between grief and vengeance. But all I saw was a woman on the edge of a truth too big to carry alone anymore. She turned away from me and poured herself another glass of wine. Her hands were trembling. "I didn't mean to tell you like this," she said quietly. "But maybe it's better this way. No more pretending." "Pretending what?" I asked. "That my son was a saint?" She let out a bitter laugh. "A saint? God, Maggie, he was charming. He was smart. He was kind when he wanted to be. But behind closed doors." She trailed off, eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. Maybe it was a memory. Maybe it was guilt. "You think I'm cold," she went on. "But I had to be. He made me this way. Every time he disappeared for a night, every time I asked where he'd been, he'd turn it around. Don't be paranoid, Emily. You're imagining things. He made me feel crazy." I shook my head slowly. "Daniel was loyal." Was he?" she snapped, whirling to face me. "You never saw it, did you? He was cheating, Maggie. I found messages, emails, photos. And when I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. He just blamed me. Said I was distant. Said I made him feel unwanted." My throat tightened. My hands were cold. "Why didn't you tell me?" She laughed again, but it was hollow. "Because you never would have believed me. He was your golden boy. You always defended him. I thought maybe if I stayed long enough, he'd change. That we could fix things for Ethan. But then," her voice broke. She sat down at the table, suddenly small, fragile. "The night he died, we fought. Not just words. Screaming. He said he wanted a divorce. Said he'd take Ethan and leave. That no court would side with me." I lowered myself into the chair opposite her, barely hearing my own heartbeat. "What happened, Emily?" She looked up at me, and for the first time I saw it. Not anger, not calculation, fear. "He was at the top of the stairs," she whispered. He had Ethan's backpack in his hand. He said he was leaving that night. I tried to stop him. I grabbed his arm. I was yelling, begging him not to go. And then she inhaled, sharp and shallow. He slipped. Or maybe I pulled too hard. I don't know. It happened so fast. 1 second he was there, the next he was gone. Just gone. The silence that followed was unbearable. I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. My mind raced between denial and horror. Are you telling me it was an accident? I asked finally. I don't know, she said. It wasn't planned. I didn't mean to. It wasn't supposed to happen. I leaned back, dizzy with disbelief. My son, the boy I raised, the man I loved, might not have been who I thought he was. And Emily, the woman I'd blamed for so long, might have been a victim of a life unraveling behind closed doors. But nothing was black and white. Why hide it? I asked. Why not tell the truth? Her voice was almost a whisper. Because no one would believe me. And I'd lose Ethan. I couldn't lose him too. We sat in silence. I didn't know what to feel. My grief for Daniel twisted into something unrecognizable, something tangled in shame, confusion, and sorrow. And yet, I saw a new side of Emily. One broken but human. One I had never allowed myself to see. Still, something didn't sit right. If she was being honest now, why did she lie before? And if Daniel really was cheating, why hadn't I seen a single shred of evidence? Why hide it so completely? Unless Emily was hiding something more. I knew then. The story wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. After Emily's confession, I couldn't sleep for days. The words replayed in my head like a warning. He slipped. Or maybe I pulled too hard. I don't know. She had said it wasn't planned, that it was an accident. And yet, the moment I closed my eyes, I could see Daniel at the top of those stairs, eyes wide, shouting something I couldn't hear, then falling into darkness. Was it really an accident? Or was it something else? Part of me wanted to believe her. I'd seen her crack, really crack, for the first time. The performance was gone. But there was another part of me, quieter and colder, that had started to doubt everything. That part whispered, she's not telling you everything. And you know it. So I went back to the study. Back to Daniel's laptop. The one with the locked file he labeled for Mom. Liam had someone working on the password, but I couldn't wait. Not anymore. I started digging through Daniel's things again. Files, notebooks, bank statements, anything that could tell me the truth he never got to share. I found receipts for late-night purchases. Hotel bookings under different names. And tucked behind a bookshelf, a burner phone. It had no contacts saved, but the message history was still there. And that's when my blood ran cold. There were messages from Emily. Don't forget who has the upper hand. You think you're going to take him from me? Try it. Keep pushing me, Daniel. See what happens. The last message was from the night before he died. We're done playing nice. I'm not your puppet. This ends now. The breath caught in my chest. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. She told me he was cheating, that he made her feel crazy, that he threatened to take Ethan. But what if she was the one doing the threatening? What if Daniel hadn't been the monster, but the one trying to escape? The next day, I confronted Liam. I handed him the burner phone without saying a word. He read the messages, slowly, his jaw tightening. This changes things, he said. I don't know who to believe anymore, I whispered. Liam looked at me, eyes steady. We might be dealing with something more serious than an accident, Maggie. But if we push this forward, if we charge her, it could get ugly. Ethan will be dragged into all of it. And if we don't? I asked. Then she walks away clean. No consequences. And no one ever knows what really happened. Back at the house, I try to act normal. I smiled when Ethan showed me his drawing of a spaceship. I made tea. I folded laundry. I said nothing to Emily. But I watched her. And I listened. She was lighter now, like a woman who had laid down a heavy burden. She even started putting back some of Daniel's things, his books, his watch, his picture with Ethan. I wondered, was it guilt that changed her? Or was she just resetting the stage? That night, I walked into the kitchen and found her on the phone. She didn't hear me come in. "Yeah, it's handled," she whispered. "No, she won't do anything. She's too soft." She turned and froze when she saw me. We stared at each other for a long second. Her face flickered, just briefly, with panic. Then, like a switch, she smiled.
"Oh, Mom. Didn't see you there."
I smiled back. But I could feel it in my bones now. The truth had edges. Later, I sat on the porch, Ethan asleep inside. I looked up at the stars and asked myself a question I never thought I'd ask. Could I protect my grandson without destroying what was left of my family? Because now I had proof. But I also had a choice. And one way or another, that choice would change everything. I couldn't pretend anymore. The messages on the burner phone, Emily's cold words on the call, the way she smiled when she thought she had won, it all pointed to something I could no longer excuse or explain away. I had proof.
And a decision.
Liam was waiting for me the next morning. I met him at the park, away from the house, away from Ethan. The quiet hum of families laughing and birds chirping made what I was about to say feel even heavier. "I have the phone," I told him. "And I'm ready." He nodded slowly. "You want to file the report?" My hand trembled around the zipper of my purse. I could feel the weight of the phone like it was made of stone. She threatened him, "Liam. I have it in writing. He called me the night before, terrified. You saw the autopsy. This wasn't just a fall." "I agree." "Then why am I hesitating?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Because we both already knew. Ethan. A knock on the door. A visit from social workers. A custody hearing that rips him away from everything familiar. I looked Liam in the eye. If this goes to trial, he'll lose both parents. One dead, one behind bars. Liam exhaled through his nose. "Justice has a price, Maggie. Sometimes it's unbearable." That night, I stood at the threshold of Emily's room. She was sitting at her vanity, brushing her hair like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't shattered my world. She caught my reflection in the mirror. "You look tired." "I'm not," I said. "I'm very awake." She turned to face me. "Something you want to say?" I walked into the room, slowly. My voice didn't shake. "You'll let me stay in this house. You'll raise Ethan in peace. You'll never lock me out of his life again. And if anything happens to that boy, if you so much as raise your voice the wrong way." I pulled the burner phone from my pocket and placed it gently on her dresser. "I will release this to everyone. The police. The press. Your friends. His school. Everyone."
Her face changed.
No more calm. No more cold. Just wide, startled eyes. "You wouldn't dare," she said, voice low. "I already did. I lied. There are copies. With people I trust." She stared at me, searching for the bluff. But I gave her nothing. "I'm not here to punish you, Emily," I said. "But I will protect Ethan. Even if it means living with the devil." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she reached for the burner phone, picked it up, and placed it gently in the drawer beside her bed. "I'll draw up a schedule," she said softly. "Shared responsibility. You can stay. For Ethan." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We didn't speak another word that night. But a new line had been drawn. Not in anger, but in fire. And I had crossed it. I walked back to my room, heart pounding, knowing I had made my choice. I hadn't chosen justice. I hadn't chosen revenge. I had chosen him. But one question still burned in my mind, whispering louder than ever. What kind of life grows from a truth no one dares to speak? It's been 6 months. The days have grown quieter in the house Daniel left behind. Not peaceful, just quiet. Like the hush before a storm that never quite comes. Emily and I live together now, not as family, not as enemies, but something in between. Ice and fire. 2 women bound by a child, and by a secret that could break us both. We don't speak of that night. Not the confrontation. Not the deal. Not the phone. But it hangs between us in every room. At breakfast, I pour Ethan's juice. Emily butters his toast. Our eyes never meet, but our movements are perfectly in sync, like dance partners in a routine we didn't choose. Ethan laughs, talks about dinosaurs and soccer, and how he wants to be an astronaut. His world is bright, untouched, and I pray every day it stays that way. I've become his quiet protector. I read him bedtime stories, walk him to school, sit in the back row at his class plays, and clap the loudest. Emily lets me. She doesn't say, "Thank you." She doesn't need to. She knows why I'm here. She knows what I know. Sometimes I catch her watching me. Her expression unreadable. Not fear. Not regret. Something more complicated. Guilt, maybe. Or something colder, like calculation. That phone, now lives in a small wooden box in my closet.
Locked.
Wrapped in an old scarf that once belonged to Daniel. I've never opened it since. But I haven't thrown it away either. I think Emily wonders about that too. One afternoon, I found her in my room, standing near the closet. She claimed she was looking for Ethan's shoes. I didn't argue. I didn't have to. We both knew what she was really looking for. And we both knew she didn't find it.
Not that day.
Not yet. Because the truth is still here. In this house. In the walls, in the air. In the spaces between our footsteps. It's in the way Emily sometimes touches Ethan's hair too gently or apologizes too quickly. Like she's trying to prove something. Maybe to herself. It's in the way I lie awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I made the right choice. Did I protect Ethan? Or did I sentence him to a lifetime of unspoken things?
I don't know anymore.
But I do know this. I'm not leaving. Not today. Not tomorrow. I'll stay in this house as long as I'm breathing. Because children don't just need love, they need shields. They need people who will stand in the gap between them and the darkness. Even if that darkness shares the same roof. Even if the shield is made of secrets. Ethan laughs outside in the garden now, chasing butterflies, his shoes muddy, his smile wide. I watch from the window. Emily joins him. She kneels to tie his laces. He throws his arms around her neck. And for a moment, they look like a perfect picture. But I know better. And I know this story isn't over. Because secrets don't stay buried. Not forever. And the day one rises, I'll be ready. The phone is still there. Waiting. There's more than one way to protect a child. Even if it means living with the devil.